Why do we have to wait till we're 40 to not care what people think? We need to be,
I don't.
right, 10 or whatever and say, this is what I like. 8 or whatever it is, this is what I like, and I'm not going to change for anyone. And I'm going to find people that can celebrate me and do the things that I love and not think it's weird.
She wore lace gloves.
Lace gloves. I remember when Maya said, I want to have a princess tea party. And I was like, huh? Because I'm thinking, 16, you want to have a princess tea party. Sometimes, right, what happens with parties is
they get crazy.
They get out of hand, but also people will take over because they want to put their vision on it. And then they had tea sandwiches and scones and all the desserts and the chocolate cake and all the things.
And I was the butler.
She drew on a mustache, y'all, on her face. What else did you have on?
Bow tie. I juggled that for them. It teaches us to be thankful that we have freedom because our ancestors had to fight for freedom.
They had to fight, yeah. There's something about our people that we will find the joy in anything. And thinking about your ancestors having been enslaved for 400 years, can you imagine what that would feel like? I love the idea. And Maya started this tradition that she envisioned what she wanted to do, and then my job is to help it come to life.
Welcome to Living in 3D Power. Discover your truth, discern your path, determine your power. I'm Dr. Amber Sessoms, and together, let's unlock our power, build authentic connections, and foster collective liberation. Hey y'all, welcome back to episode 23 of Living in 3D Power. And this week's episode is one of my favorites because it brings us back to something I'm always trying to hold on to: joy, rest, and remembrance. We're centering Juneteenth and what it teaches us about freedom, not just as history, but as something we're still living into. And we're anchoring that with Maya's beautiful Sweet 16 Princess Tea Party, a celebration full of intention, creativity, and connection. But before we jump into our conversation, would you please hit the like or subscribe button? Thank you. Now, Emma's going to open us with a short reflection on Juneteenth, what it means, and why it matters. Let's begin.
Hey, it's me, Emma, and today I want to tell you about Juneteenth. Juneteenth is a special holiday that celebrates the day some enslaved people in the United States finally learned that they were free. It happened on June 19th, 1865, in Texas, 2 years after slavery was supposed to end. A Union soldier read the news out loud to a group of black men, women, and children. When they heard they were free, they danced, cried, and celebrated. The celebration became a tradition, and now Juneteenth is a national holiday. A woman named Opal Lee, who was 89 years old, helped make that happen. She walked nearly 1,400 miles to Washington, D.C. to ask that Juneteenth be recognized all across the world. On Juneteenth, some families eat red food like red velvet cake or strawberries to honor the bloodshed in the fight of freedom. But Juneteenth isn't just about the past. It's also a time to think about the freedom means today and how we keep working to make sure everyone is truly free. So happy Juneteenth, and remember, freedom is worth celebrating and protecting. It's me, it's me, it's me. It's me, it's me, it's me. Hey, it's me, Emma. Welcome back to Living in 3D Power, and today we're going to be talking about Juneteenth / Maya's birthday my sister, slash summer bucket list.
Yeah, summer bucket list. Yeah, so I think let's start with the summer bucket list, and then that kind of leads us into a conversation about Maya's Sweet 16. And also, it happens to be this week on Thursday, it happens to be Juneteenth. So Maya sent me a bucket list a couple of days ago, and she has some things, and she categorized it into outside activities, indoor, and then new hobbies and things that she'd like to do at home. Some of those things were go to a festival or a fair for outside berry picking, short road trips, 3 hours or so, stargazing, you know she loves stars, kayaking, going to the zoo, hot air balloon, which I'm actually surprised she said a hot air balloon because she's afraid of heights. And other things like, go outdoor painting, horseback riding, indoors, trampoline park. She has art museums because, she's an artist. Go to the spa. She's been talking about going to the spa for a while. She really wants to go to a spa. And at 16, you can start going to the spa. Bowling, mini golf. I think you said you wanted to do that too. And then new hobbies or things that you can do at home, get better at oil painting, movie marathon, journaling, making playlist, reading books, photography, and photo books. So you also, when I said about Maya created a summer bucket list, you said, "Ooh, I want to do that." So what do you have on your list?
Let me just log in. So, on my bucket list, I have going to Hershey Park with one of my friends, having a sleepover with my cousins.
Why you say it like that?
Because you're not allowing me to have a sleepover with my friends because you're cautious.
No, they can come over here. You just can't sleep over at their house.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you have to have a sleepover here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going over to their house. A new environment. Going to the beach, going on a road trip, finishing and with the E. As we talked about, great show, watch it. Going to the mall with my friends.
Oh no. Going to the mall with your friends, that sounds like a nightmare for a mother. 10-year-olds in the mall? Lord.
Well, don't be scattering. Make a dress, go to a museum, go to mini golf, try new things. It's multi-purpose.
Okay,
So,
multi-purposed.
Laser tag, make my own earrings, learn how to ride a bike.
Oh, maybe you can make earrings with Maya because she makes earrings. And you don't have any in your ear, so I guess you need to start making some. Yeah, I love that list, and I think Maya just had a really good idea about, even when I think about my research, right? So when I did my research, it was the simple everyday things that can make a really big impact on your life. So I think we talked about last week about we think about vacations, and it has to be this big elaborate thing. Like someone I just had a meeting with today said, "Oh, I'll be on vacation," and everyone's like, "Where are you going?" She's like, "I'm going to Mexico." People are like, "Oh my gosh, Mexico," which is great, right? We can do that. They're also like, what do you do the rest of the year?
Sit on the couch.
Sit on the couch, or you just stress yourself out as an adult with work, work, work. So I love these ideas, the bucket list. And it's funny that she calls it a bucket list because it's things that you want to do before you die. Yeah, that's kind of what it's like. There's a term called kick the bucket. When you die, you kick the bucket. So yeah, it's a little harsh, but there's things in life, and the whole purpose is you have one life to live. It's short. Live it boldly, live it fully, and do things you love. And
I have a lot of lives to live because I'm really creative and I like trying new things. So,
and I think what you're saying is, and what Maya is showing is, like, we have to tap in as adults, tap into our curiosity and our sense of discovery. And there's all these amazing things around, even in our backyard, that we can do. So taking in the awe and wonder of the world. So I love these ideas. And as we go through them, and Maya actually has checked some of these off already. One being that she wanted to have a picnic with friends. So let's talk about her epic picnic with friends, which was really her Sweet 16 party. But the first thing I want to ask you is, how did this tea party that Maya had, how did it show her personality?
Colors.
Describe it for the listeners. So we're going to put up some pictures of her party, but describe the party and how it really fit her personality.
Old-fashioned.
Maya's old-fashioned?
Retro.
Retro. How so? So what was old-fashioned and retro about her party?
She had fancy dresses.
So 19th century dresses, which you actually showed on an earlier podcast episode.
I can bring it up.
You showed the people before, but yeah, she had 19th century, I think they're called Regency dresses. So she had a Regency dress. And what else did she wear?
This one is not as...
Well, that's the
this
one you
one's
showed the
fancy.
people.
This one's fancy.
Well, yes,
than hers.
super fancy. So hers wasn't that fancy where she needed the petticoat underneath.
Hers was like green and like cream colored.
With a green bow on the back, and it was lace and sheer and then overlaid with the white underneath. Really, really pretty. What else did she wear? And what did she get for her guests?
She wore lace gloves.
Lace
And
gloves.
she got some gloves for other people, her
Yes.
guests. It was last minute though.
It worked out though. It was a really cute idea. So she also had what did she serve? So it was like a French theme. Oh, you're gonna pull up what she made.
Well, I made this, but Maya and her friends made this.
So for the
So-
people who aren't watching but are listening, Emma's holding up a cone shape. I'm not sure how you would
From
describe
a
it.
fairy tale. Like, you know,
Like a princess fairy tale. Yeah,
and
so they
would,
wore the cone,
"Help me."
princess hats, those really high hats with the lace. You didn't add lace to yours, but there's a kind of like a trail or a veil in the back of it. And I remember when Maya said, I want to have a princess tea party. And I was like, huh? Because I'm thinking, 16, you want to have a princess tea party. But when she described it, and she had already had the images up on Pinterest. I do the same thing. Like everything that I do, I get
Me too.
inspiration. I put it
Me
on
too.
Pinterest.
Me too, guys.
So she had a mood board, and I was like, oh, I could see this. So it was, china, teacups, tea, the teapot. It was the low floor, the low wooden table that was covered with linens and flowers and candles and all the
And
things.
they had pillows to sit on.
And pillows. And what were the colors?
Cream, like this tealish green.
Well, sage. It's kind of actually like your shirt that you have on today. Sage.
Yeah. And pink,
Yeah, like a blush pink. So really pretty
like her balloons.
light colors. Oh my gosh, talk about those balloons.
Whenever you go downstairs, it smells like balloons.
Because there's like 160 balloons in our basement right
Yes. Whenever I go down to grab a snack, I'm like,
now. But how was it blowing up those balloons?
difficult.
What was difficult?
Well, first of all, you told us to blow it up with our mouths, and I was like,
The 5-inch balloons, y'all. It wasn't like I was telling them to blow up 20-inch balloons because the instructions said do not use the air pump for those or it will pop.
and Maya was using the pump.
The hand
But-
pump. She mastered that.
There was like 2-layer ones, and they were like,
They were harder.
yeah, because I was like, and like only a little bit blew up, and I was like,
Yeah, it was hard.
so I used the pump, and Maya taught me her secrets. You go like this.
I definitely, in hindsight, now know because my fingers. People said that they would get blisters
She
from
always
tying the
talk
balloons.
about, oh, my fingers.
You know what? But I asked Kia and I asked other people. They're like, "Oh my gosh, my fingers were blistered." And what you do is you take 2 balloons and you just tie them together. So what I did is I took the inner one and made knots out of that, and then I tied the other 2 together. I didn't have to do all that step. But I will say it was our first time making a balloon. What do you call it? Garland or something like that. 160 something balloons, but it came out really well. So we're gonna put some images up, y'all. But I really loved the theme, and I love that you said, because here's what I think. Like Gabby had her quinceañera last year, and it was this big elaborate party with all these people there, and she had to dance with her dad. And could you see Maya doing that?
No, never. Never in 1 billion. Well, maybe when she's like older.
Maybe when she's older.
But like,
Do you think that would be super awkward for her?
yeah, she would be like,
And I think that's the beauty of her coming and saying, here's what I'd like to do.
I wanna
and
do a
sometimes, right, what
party.
happens with parties is
they get crazy.
they get out of hand, but also people will take over because they want to put their vision on it. And I would venture to say that Maya might be like, because I remember she was like, all those balloons, but that was her photo backdrop, right? And it turned out beautifully and she loved it. And I think that's what was most exciting, that she didn't want this big, huge party because that's not Maya's personality. She had her 5 friends there. She did something creative with crafts first. And then they had tea sandwiches and scones and all the desserts and the chocolate cake and all the things.
And I was the butler.
Oh, so I'm going to talk about that. But you skipped a question, but I think that's good. So let's talk about Emma's, her contribution to the party besides helping with the balloons and setting up. What did you have this brilliant idea to do?
So I got my idea from Anne with the E.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
Because,
that.
spoiler. So, basically, there's this girl's, I forget her name.
The older woman?
No, like the younger girl that,
Oh.
spoiler, that faked breaking her leg. Spoiler.
Oh, twisting her ankle.
Yeah.
They had to wait.
Yeah,
oh.
that's her grandma, the older lady, and she had this butler, and I was like, oh, what if I became the butler?
And it was the same time period.
Yeah, so
Yeah, but what did this butler look like? I'm putting the picture up there, y'all. What did this butler Emma look like?
Mustache.
And I was like, how did you
Slick
get?
back
Where'd
ponytail.
you get the mustache from? Your eyeliner. She drew on a mustache, y'all, on her face. What else did you have on?
Bow tie.
She got a bow tie from Daddy, which Daddy never even wore, but I bought him that bow tie on a work trip from a woman who makes these handmade, beautiful bow ties. So you wore that. What else did you wear?
I wore like a button-up, long shirt, and I wore like this black like vest thing,
Yes.
and then I wore short shorts because it was a little hot outside.
Well, you had biker shorts on, and then you also wore gloves. So I was in the house prepping, and I could hear, because we had it outside in a tent, and I could hear when her friends were arriving, them laughing because they saw you.
And they told me to do like the butler walk, like
What's the butler walk?
this.
That's kind of like when the guard outside where they're really stiff walking. But what did they call you?
Bertram.
Wait, I don't know if they can hear you. So she dropped her iPad, but what did they call you?
Bertram.
And what's that from?
I really don't know.
Sweet Life. No, not Sweet Life. Jesse. Remember him?
Oh,
The butler.
I did kind of look like him.
I don't know how did you not catch that?
Hey, Jesse.
They kept calling you Bertram.
Oh, now I remember. Wait, the crazy thing is, when I went inside for the party, I watched Jesse.
And it still did. Oh, after the party?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sure did.
Hey, Jesse.
You probably subconsciously.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
Hey,
y'all.
Jesse. Ooh. It feels like a party every day. Hey, Jesse.
Welcome to my world, y'all. She just randomly busts into song or randomly plays songs. So, yes, so that's why they called you Bertram, because he is their waiter in the house.
Yeah, but I did have a receding hairline.
Yeah.
And I wasn't gray.
But I thought it was funny because at one point they're like, Bertram, can you get me more drink? Or you were like, can I get you anything? You really were in the character. You owned it. And I think, so how did it feel to be the butler for your sister's Sweet 16 with her friends?
Fun.
Fun? How?
Because I got to be a part of it.
Oh, see, she let me in on what I was thinking, because here's what Emma usually does when her sister... She's side-eyed looking at the camera. She's like, don't be telling us my business. You usually have a really hard time when your sisters have friends over. And why is that?
Because I feel left out.
You do feel left out. So was part of saying, I'll be the butler. Oh, she's making a face because I already knew she was plotting because I had a conversation. I said, listen, this is your sister's day. Please don't start having breakdowns and crying and being all upset because you can't be a part of her day. So then Emma is like, here's how I can be a part of the day. I'll be the quote unquote waiter.
Butler.
Oh, butler. So then she got to be a part of the day. So was that like a two?
For them.
What?
I juggled for them.
You what?
I juggled that for them.
You did?
Yeah, they told me to juggle, so I juggled with.
You weren't a jester. That's like a court. Like you're supposed to entertain. You're supposed to wait on them hand
I'm
to
a
foot.
butler, so I do whatever I'm told.
Oh my gosh. So that was a way. I mean, I'll give you credit for coming up with a solution for you that didn't ruin your sister's day and didn't leave you in a bad mood for the whole day.
Yeah.
And it seemed to work out for everyone. So
Yay.
very creative. You solved your own problem by being like, how can I be a part of this day without getting in trouble or my sister telling me to get away? And it was cute. Y'all took pictures together. It was great. They even took pictures with you, right? The Butler pictures with you.
Yeah, one picture, her friends have it. They were like holding me up. and
I
was
heard
like
him saying, it's
this.
like, Emma, you have to be stiff as a board, light as a feather. They were holding you. I don't even know what those pictures look like.
Me either.
But yes, it was a very creative idea and a creative way to solve the problem that you consistently have when they have company over.
Her friends are nice though.
They are.
They don't get bothered when I like hang out with them.
Yeah, and I think that's good because I want my kids to have good friends, right? Kind friends. That's really important to me. And that I know their parents.
Yes.
Also very important. Yes.
Yes. So that means I can have a sleepover with them?
We'll see. She wants to sleep over so bad, y'all. But see, so would you have a question for me? Because I think this ties in with your urge to want to hang out or have a sleepover. But that second question on there.
Why do we have Sweet 16 parties?
Yeah, so you know how I talked about the quinceañera? So Gabby, and that's very true, and like she's half Puerto Rican, so in their culture they do 15 as a rite of passage. So it's a rite of passage or this coming of age, a transition from childhood into young adulthood. And typically, well, you know, like bar mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs in a Jewish tradition, there's different cultures that do different things. So in American culture in general, we do Sweet 16, and that's kind of a rite of passage because this is when you can start getting a car, you can start driving. So you're getting closer and closer towards this idea of adulthood 2 years from now. So we usually have these big celebrations, and I love that Maya created it to be her own because, again, Gabby's party wouldn't have really worked for Maya because that's not Maya's personality, and she wouldn't have liked the whole...
They did have a photo booth.
Photo booth was cool. Yeah, but so Maya might have liked that part. But yeah, so that really is a transition, and usually people have grand, big parties. But you don't have to, right? Maya broke tradition and broke the norm. And she says, I just want to have 5 friends over, and we're just going to hang out. And they hung out all night. They had the candles out there in the tent, and they made it their own. And
They disappeared though.
they did. They walked around the neighborhood in their dresses, but it was a good idea. So yeah, it's just really this rite of passage and this coming into adulthood.
So the next question is, what did the tea party mean to you as a mom?
Okay, so thinking about Sweet 16's a coming of age, and I think particularly for Maya, because Maya is so quiet, that it was particularly important because she doesn't really ask for much. And she had a whole idea planned out of how she wanted. I mean, she even had that 60s music playlist, right? And I was like, do any of your friends, you think they're going to know the music? And she's like, no. But the point of it was that she was really celebrating the uniqueness of who she is. And it didn't matter if they didn't know her music. She was introducing them to another part of herself, right? So I think for me, the coming of age for me was Maya being more independent and being celebratory about who she is as an individual and doing something. Because I remember even telling one of her friends' moms, oh, they're going to have a princess tea party. And she was kind of like, well, I guess, you know, kids, they still want to do like childlike things. And her mom later, she sent me a message. She goes, oh my gosh, my daughter's talking about the party. She absolutely loved it. And I think, again, for Maya, she's like, I don't care what people think. This is what I want to do.
Me too.
And it just, right. And it worked out so awesome. Like, her friends were totally into making the hats. We went out and got the supplies. They all made their hats. They're out there with glue and lace and all the things. And I think that was the point for me is when you're coming of age, what they talk about for older people, I'll hear people that are in their 60s and 70s, really once you cross over to 40, I'll hear people say, you know, once you cross over 40, you really don't care what people think. But my thing is, why do we have to wait till we're 40 to not care what people think? We need to be,
I don't.
Right, 10 or whatever, and say, this is what I like. 8 or whatever it is, this is what I like, and I'm not going to change for anyone. And I'm going to find people that can celebrate me and do the things that I love and not think it's weird. So that all to me was really Maya coming of age and creating this whole idea. And then my job was to help her make it come to life. So it was just such an awesome experience. And she said it was the best day ever for her. So it just made me really happy as her mama.
Hey, Jesse. I wonder what my best day is going to be.
We'll see. Okay, so the next thing I want to ask you is now, because this week is also Thursday being Juneteenth. And here's another thing about Maya's party. It's the same week or the same month, kind of like a couple days from Juneteenth. JoJo's 18th birthday, well, that was April, but her graduation was her graduation party was on Juneteenth 2021. So it's a full circle thinking about Juneteenth, Maya being so close to that date. We had a big celebration for JoJo. So it was a jubilee for JoJo.
Jubilee.
It's the celebration, jubilee, joy.
That's from X-Men.
Oh, but it's like the Juneteenth Jubilee. Like, you celebrate, you have joy, all the things. So, and thinking about Maya being so close to Juneteenth, and then also thinking about she turned 16. The picture, I'll put this picture up, y'all. The picture of Daddy holding her on June 19th, 2009, when she was 1 day old. June 15th, because she was born on June 14th. So June 15th was the picture, but that was also Father's Day this week. So it was all these kind of reminders and these things about like, oh, we're coming full circle. And 16 being, when you look up 16 kind of in the Bible, or 1 being oneness with God, unity, divine perfection, all those things. And then 6 being kind of our imperfections as human beings, and the 2 of them together is loving kindness. So it just all was full circle. But I digress, because I think that was really important. But what I think about...
Maybe Maya will show loving kindness to me.
She has started to, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I had a conversation with someone today. She has 3 kids, but she says the youngest is a boy. So we were kind of talking about the youngest and having issues connecting with their kids. And she goes, you know what's better? She's like, I noticed that when all 3 are together, it's a wreck. But if it's just 2 of them together, they're much better. And I feel like that's true.
That is so, because...
If it's just you or JoJo or you or Maya... You're better instead of, but all 3 together. I feel like the 2 older together gang up on you.
Yeah. When it's just them 2. One time, like, they always chatting and I'm just sitting over here like...
They're not including you.
Yeah.
But if it's just the 2 of you, they're more likely to include you. So I think there is some truth to that. Yeah, so I think that's something to work on. Maybe you'll put that on your bucket list. You and Maya can have a day or something.
Oh, yeah. That's actually a good idea. Maybe I'll put it in right now.
And you know how when we went on vacation and they got to share a room and you were so upset because they got to share a room? So maybe in some of these trips we go to, you and Maya can share a room.
Yeah, they always share a room with every vacation. When we went to New York, they shared a room. I think when we went to Washington, they shared a room.
You shared a room in the one trip we went to to New York when we...
Yeah, that was the only time, but I was little. Maya said she didn't like that one.
Right. It's hard to...
I liked it.
So this is also why you bring up a good point. Like, Maya always struggles. She's like, oh, I don't like that vacation. I didn't like that. I don't like the beach. And I was like, well, where do you want to go?
She literally put the beach.
She put the beach on there, but she likes to collect shells. So I think it's also important that she create...
and color it.
Yes, you do. So we do the fine things, and then they kind of decorate our dining room table. But Maya having trouble finding things that she likes on vacation, and it's always hard because there's so many different personalities, and I'm trying to please all of you. So that's why I'm like, okay, we'll try to go to the museum.
You please
or we'll try to do
me.
this. It's really hard because I think that you're just
Anything
grateful
we
for a lot of anything.
Anything we do, I'm just like, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, but
could've
it can
just
get
been
harder
sitting
for
on the couch.
teenagers.
Yeah,
So-
because they're moody.
But it's good because she created a list, so then I have something to go off of, and we can
Okay,
kind
you're
of
like-
create something. Right. Okay, so yeah, that for me. But being that Juneteenth is in a couple days, what do you think Juneteenth teaches us about joy? Because we're talking about joy and Maya's party and Jubilee. What does Juneteenth teach us about joy?
X-Men.
Okay.
It teaches us to be thankful that we have freedom because our ancestors had to fight for freedom.
They had to fight, yeah. And so joy in there. So I think about when they were finally told in Texas, in Galveston, Texas, that they were free nearly 2 years later after emancipation, right? And it took that long for them to get word for various different reasons. We won't get into all the history there. Part of it being people were saying that they wanted to get another year of crops in there, so getting their quote unquote free labor, which was really trafficking and all of those things. But also when they were told they were free, like dancing and singing. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing because there's something about our people that we will find the joy in anything. And thinking about your ancestors hadn't been enslaved for 400 years. And can you imagine what that would feel like? And so now there's all these traditions now that they have red velvet cake, which is your favorite.
One of mine.
And why do they have red flavored things or red colored things? Like, what's the significance of that?
To symbolize the blood that the Black people experience.
Yeah, like they shed blood, literally died for our freedoms, right? So I think it's just such an important thing. And I'm trying to think, and I'm blanking on the woman's name. Oh no. I'll put it up there, y'all, but y'all are probably shouting at me right now through the the podcast. But there's a woman's name who traveled about 1,400 miles to really make this a national holiday. And I think she was 80 something at the time when she did that. So it's just really beautiful to see that it's come to fruition, that she worked really hard to make that happen. And we're actually going to have to pause a second, Emma, because I just lost my questions.
Mommy.
But what about you? So,
mine.
so the next one. So what do you have for that question? The next one. As I try to find my questions again.
This is the last question. What's one joy-filled tradition you want to create or continue for my sweet 16?
Yeah, because you remember during the party or after, you were like, can I have a sweet 16? And I know in an early episode we talked about the book, so everyone gets a double-digit book. So I started all these traditions with JoJo, who's the oldest. I don't know where I got the idea. I don't think Pinterest was a thing back then.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't.
I did a double-digit book for her, and back then I had to scan all the images because it was all actual pictures, and now everything's digital. I create that from birth to the age of 10. You get that book on your birthday. You were so excited about that book. And then, well, one, I do a big birthday party when you're 1. I'm not one of these parents that does a birthday party every year. I just...
Like birthday party.
One, it's a lot of work. And 2, I mean, it can be expensive.
All we get is donuts.
3, oh, that is another tradition. So
Donuts.
birthdays, you get donuts in the morning for your birthday. So everyone gets donuts. But first birthday is a really big deal. So we go over the top, and yours was
Big
a Winter Wonderland theme.
cake.
I made a cake for the first time for your birthday, and it was really good. It was like a
was like,
spice
"Ugh."
cake. Emma didn't want to touch it at 1. I did a
I
photo
don't
shoot
like
with
the,
her.
I don't like the texture.
The texture. So 1 is that I don't do anything until 10. You get the photo book, you get the donuts every year. And then 16, we missed out on that because JoJo turned 16 during COVID, and I turned 40 during COVID. So I missed out on my big party too. So, but what I did do for JoJo is I did the bunting, the banner. So I take black and white images from birth and up into your birth date, and I make a banner and I string that And they're all black and white images.
There's like pictures downstairs.
Yeah, so I did that for yours because it was I did that for your first birthday. So that is a tradition we do for 16. You get the bunting, you get lots of pictures of you in black and white. But I think I love the idea, and Maya started this tradition that she created. She envisioned what she wanted to do, and then my job is to help it come to life. So thinking about when you turn 16, yes, we'll do the traditional things like the bunting, the donuts, all those things, but you get to create and come into your own, because this has to be your vision, right? Because a lot of times parents will be like, this is what we're going to do for your party.
Your theme's going to be purple.
Right.
Even
though you don't.
like blue.
Right. We'll just take over. And I'm like, I love the idea of doing it together. So I can see us we got 6 years, 5.5 years to plan that. So that, I think, is going to be a really cool idea. And because I don't have my thing up, I'm going to need to borrow your iPad for the last question for the chicken nugget wisdom, because I can't remember it. What did we come up with? So last question, your chicken nugget wisdom, so you can frame it that way, is what does freedom feel like, especially during this month? What does freedom feel like?
What?
That's what you said. What does freedom feel like?
No, but why a question? Why a question?
Because we ask questions.
That could just be it. People could answer that.
You're answering it. It's your chicken nugget wisdom. Listen, y'all, we work on these questions together, and she didn't like how I worded the last question, and she goes, I don't like that. It doesn't make sense. And I said, well, how would you word it? So she says, what does freedom feel like, especially during this month? And now she's sitting here talking about
fireworks.
It feels like fireworks?
Lightning bolts. All the things.
It feels like lightning bolts.
You know that scene in Ratatouille where he mixes
the
really
flavors,
good, and he's like, and it shows like the things. It's like,
okay, if I can, I guess it's not copyright infringement, but put this scene up from Ratatouille where he's experiencing the food, and remember he tries to get his brother to experience it, and it's like little spurts. He couldn't get fully into it, and then he finally got into it. I love that. Mm-hmm. So freedom feels like Ratatouille when he's experiencing the food and just
strawberry
it's like
and cheese.
Kind of like fireworks, yes, and combining it, and he's just like fully immersed in it. Emma, I love that. I can feel what that would feel like. So I love that, and I hope everyone out there can experience that. And I think the really challenging part is because of how the world is right now, that a lot of people's freedoms literally are being stripped from them, and they're being ripped
like a Band-Aid.
And that worse, like, I mean, it's people are being just taken from their families, never to return. And I remember thinking about that in the last presidency of this current president, and having real conversations with my students when I was still in the schools about they had emergency plans if they went home and their parents were not there because they were undocumented. What would they do? And now you see that again. So in light of
when was that?
The last time he was in office, and now the same thing's happening, and now you have all these children that don't have their parents or caregivers because of these really heinous laws that are stripping people of their freedoms, and they just want to be helping our communities. So
I'm gonna go to the White House.
Yeah, it's painful, and that's why people are in the streets, like the No King's Day. So thinking about that was his birthday, because Maya also shares a birthday with him, and I know that's kind of sucky. But the No King's Day protest all across the world in this country, really in light of that people deserve these freedoms. So when we're talking about what freedom feels like in that Ratatouille experience, everyone deserves to feel that. So I'm hoping that we can create a world, right, where we can experience that, and we don't have to be looking over our shoulders or feel like we're going to be taken off the streets just because of the color of our skin or because we speak a different language.
I can speak 2.5 languages.
2.5. Duolingo is helping you?
Yeah. Shout out to Duolingo.
Shout out to Duolingo. Yeah, so you just gave me a lot, like just thinking about that. I was just really stuck on the Ratatouille and thinking about, that's why a lot of people come to this country, because they want that experience of freedom. And now a lot of those people that came to this country are being stripped of that, right? So you kind of get here and you realize some of that's not true. It's kind of like a dream that we create.
They're like,
but how do
America
we?
is amazing.
Yeah.
Come here.
In a lot of ways it is, but it's been because of our ancestors and other ancestors that didn't have the rights, didn't have the freedoms, didn't have that ratatouille freedom experience, that fought and said, I'm human too, and I want you to uphold the Constitution and say, it says right here, and I'm included in that. Here she goes mocking me. So you just got me, you about to get me on a soapbox and get about, like, I would love for everyone to experience that, and I'm thinking about all the pain that people are feeling right now because that has been stripped from them. Mm-hmm. So I hope you as listeners can sit with that and think about what it would feel like as you see the image of Ratatouille, what those freedoms feel like, and some people get to experience them because...
If you were a little kid in the 2000s and you watched that for the first time, you would know.
Yeah.
Because they play like an instrument. One time they played the bass. The bass.
Which Emma plays. That's why she's talking about it.
I'm quitting.
What? Y'all.
I'm joking.
She wanted to play this instrument so badly.
Fine.
And it costs
fine.
all this money to get. I'm talking that bass that sits on the ground bass. That thing is like twice as big as her. And now she's sitting here talking about she don't want to play it.
No, I will. For the sake of you. For the sake of you.
It's not for the sake of me.
For the sake of
If you commit
me.
to something. But this is why people have the plan where you can, all that money you put towards it, you can put towards another instrument. And she gonna end on that note, y'all.
No.
We were talking about freedom. We were talking about Ratatouille. We're talking about helping people experience that, and you're going to end on. So then you need to give another closing besides that, because give us something good for the people as we close out. We're trying to be deep.
Watch Ratatouille. It has a lot of deep notes. He lost his family.
It has a lot of deep notes. Okay.
He lost his family. Then he found someone. Then he betrayed him. Then they became friends. Then he reunited with his family. Mm-hmm. But they ate the food. Ratatouille.
They ate the food.
Yeah. The main rat, he was like, "Come in, guys," and then they opened the door and
in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And they got to experience it.
No, they just ate.
But they didn't have the sparks and all that stuff.
Because Ratatouille showed him mixes of food, but
they didn't care.
No, they just ate whatever.
So I think there's even a moral to that. Yes, and you're thinking about when you're watching something, let's try to open our minds and get the lessons. The moral of the story. And I love that you do that, because a lot of people just subconsciously and they just mindlessly watch things.
They just watch the movie because
this
they
is
watched
why
the movie.
This is why it's hard to watch stuff with Emma, because Emma want to talk through the whole movie or the whole show. Like Anne with an E, she's like, oh my gosh, and then because she's breaking it down as she's going, which I love that she's critically absorbing the information, not just passively absorbing it.
But then sometimes you're like, I want to watch.
Because I got CAPD, I gotta be. You're talking, the show's talking. I can't filter all that out. It's too much. But I love that you're sitting here saying find the moral of the story.
Oh my God,
but also it ties back into Maya inviting her friends over to celebrate her in the way she wanted to be celebrated. But they really engaged in it in that way. But you're Ratatouille invited his family, who they were just rats and just wanted to eat whatever. And he was like, you got to experience the finer things in life. And they're like, no, we're just going to eat.
And also, there was a dark moment in Ratatouille.
There is. But what I love is that it didn't stop him, even though his family didn't like the same things he liked.
No humans.
He still followed his own path.
He's like, humans are amazing. They can cook, but we can't.
Yeah. So yes, watch Ratatouille or watch anything.
And he has an amazing nose. He has an amazing nose.
The child.
Bye.
Bye, y'all. All right, so much to sit with, and I hope you felt the love, the laughter, and the layers this week's episode brought, from lace gloves and Butler mustaches to deep conversations about what freedom feels like.
And Juneteenth is not just about the past, it's about choosing joy as resistance, creating spaces where we're fully seen and honoring the freedom to be exactly who we are. So this week, here's your invitation. 1, do one thing that brings you deep joy and don't rush through it. 2, celebrate someone in your life in a small but meaningful way. Think a handwritten note, a homemade dessert, or a random act of gratitude. And 3, create a freedom list. Not think about what you're free from, but what you're free to do, say, feel, or become. For me, it would be something like, I'm free to honor my emotions and create spaces that could hold them with tender care and dignity. Now keep the list going. Let this week be a living reflection of freedom. And as always, thank you for being in this space with us. And please make sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to join our growing community. And if you're so inclined, leave a review. It really does help y'all to get our podcast to those who need to hear it most. So until next time, discover your truth, discern your path, and determine your power. Take care.